Mantras of our Divine Mother. Our Divine Mother says no material organization, whatever its degree of preparation, is capable of bringing a solution to the miseries of man. Man must rise to a higher level of consciousness and get rid of his ignorance, limitation, and selfishness in order to get rid also of his sufferings. With always our love and blessings is our Divine Mother. Sri Aurobindo's Savitri, Book 5, The Book of Love, Canto 3, Satyavan and Savitri, page 410. As if inclined before some gracious God, who has out of his mist of greatness shone, to fill with beauty his ardor's hours, she bowed and touched his feet with worshipping hands. She made her life his world for him to tread, and made her body the room of his delight, her beating heart a remembrancer of bliss. He bent to her and took into his own this married yearning, joined like folded hopes, as if a whole rich world suddenly possessed, wedded to all he had been, became himself an inexhaustible joy made his alone. He gathered all Savitri into his clasp. Around her his embrace became the sign of a locked closeness through slow intimate years, a first sweet summary of delight to come, one brevity intense of all long life. In a wide moment of two souls that meet, she felt her being flow into him as in waves a river pours into a mighty sea, as when a soul is merging into God to live in him forever and know his joy. Her consciousness grew aware of him alone, and all her separate self was lost in his. As a starry heaven encircles happy earth, he shut her into himself in a circle of bliss, and shut the world into himself unheard. A boundless isolation made them one. He was aware of her enveloping him, and let her penetrate his very soul, as is a world by the world's spirit filled, as the mortal wakes into eternity, as the finite opens to the infinite. Thus were they in each other, lost awhile, then drawing back from their long ecstasy's trance, came into a new self and a new world. Words of our Lord Sri Aurobindo, taken from the collective works of our Lord Sri Aurobindo, Letters on Yoga, Part 4, Chapter 2, Topic Steps Towards Overcoming Difficulties, Subtopic Ways of Dealing with Difficulties. Alaj Aurobindo says this sadhana is a yoga of transformation of the human consciousness into the divine consciousness. The sadhaks who come here are human beings with all the human weaknesses, but with a possibility of the transformation and an aspiration for it. For getting rid of the human weaknesses such as lust, greed, vanity, pride, falsehood, they must become conscious of them, must always reject them, must call in the Divine Mother's presence, the Divine Consciousness, the Divine Force to help them in rejecting their defects and to transform them. If they do that, then all that is necessary for the change will be done. And Lord Aurobindo continues to say, when the old moments or suggestions or voices come, first, reject them always, do not listen or take no interest. Second, if they persist, do not believe what they say or allow them to influence you. Know that they are voices or moments of a false, confused, or inferior consciousness. You have seen what the real truth is and how great it is. Third, concentrate on something else as firmly as possible. Fourth, aspire steadily for contact with the Divine Mother's light and force. Alaj Aurobindo says this is the right attitude, to have faith and not mind the difficulties. Difficulties and serious ones, they cannot fail to be in the path of integral yoga, but it is not easy to change all at once the ignorant human consciousness and make it a spiritual consciousness open to the divine. But with faith, one need not mind the difficulties. The divine force is there and will overcome them. Alaj Aurobindo says, whatever is the difficulty, it can indeed be made easy by truth in the heart and sincerity and faith in the endeavor. And even what is impossible can become possible. It is often found too that some amount of practice and faithful endeavor, there comes an intervention from within, and what might have taken long is decisively and quickly done. Your prayer will surely be answered, for it is to that you are moving. Next subtopic, facing circumstances, page 697. Alaj Aurobindo says, you should not be so dependent on outward things. It is this attitude that makes you give so excessive an importance to circumstances. I do not say that circumstances cannot help or hinder, but they are circumstances, not the fundamental thing which is in ourselves, and their help or their hindrance ought not to be of primary importance. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, in integral yoga, as in every great or serious human effort, there is always bound to be an abundance of adverse interventions and unfavorable circumstances which have to be overcome. To give them too great an importance increases their importance, and their power to multiply themselves gives them, as it were, confidence in themselves and the habit of coming. To face them with equanimity, if one cannot manage a cheerful persistence against them of confident and resolute will, diminishes, on the contrary, their importance and effect, and in the end, though not at once, gets rid of their persistence and recurrence. It is therefore, says our Lord, a principle in integral yoga to recognize the determining power of what is within us, for that is the deeper truth. To set that right and establish the inward strength as against the power of outward circumstances. The strength is there, even in the weakest. One has to find it, to unveil it and keep it in front throughout the journey and the battle. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says it was inevitable that there should be difficulties once someone has turned back from the favorable attitude. But as we told you, the only way to face and overcome them is to remain firm with a confidence in the divine that beyond all difficulties lies the realization, and to proceed either boldly or silently on your way in spite of all that people may do or say, and in spite of all troubles and trials that may come in the course of life or in the course of sadhana. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, if one keeps this position, the difficulties will either diminish or disappear, or if for any reason they become acute for a while, will collapse after a time. You are not at any time out of our minds. We are there with you in all your difficulties and troubles. Remain calm and assured, and you will feel the inner help. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, do not yield to depression, for depression only gives the opposition and difficulties a hold upon you. Call quietly and persistently for strength, and the strength will come. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says that is the inconvenience of going away from a difficulty. It runs after one, or rather, one carries with it within oneself, for the difficulty is truly inside, not outside. Outside circumstances only give it the occasion to manifest itself, and so long as the inner difficulty is not conquered, the circumstances will always crop up one way or another. And Lord Sri Aurobindo says, as for difficulties and troubles, there is a little hope of overcoming them if one does not realize that they come from within and not from outside. It is the weakness of the vital nature, the inefficient helplessness of the nervous being, always weeping and complaining and lamenting instead of facing life and overcoming difficulties. It is the sentimental lachrymose attitude it takes that keeps troubles unsolved and alive. This is a permanent which the gods will not help, because they know that help is useless. For it will either not be received or be spilled and wasted, and all that is Rajasic and Asuric in the world despises and tramples upon this kind of nature. If one learns a calm strength, quiet courage, without weakness, without fuss and violence, founded on confidence in the help he could always have received from here, and an openness to the Divine Mother's force, things will favorably settle in time. But one cannot take advantage of any help given, because vital nature cherishes weaknesses and always indulges, expressing or throwing it away with contempt as a thing unworthy or unfit for a sadhana. It is only when one rejects it that he can receive strength from us and stand in life or progress in the sadhana. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, the feeling of the strength to deal with the situation, a certain power of adaptation and harmonization of the surroundings is necessary, and make strong and successful wherever you went. The recoil that made your nervous depression and spoil for a time the action of this power in you. Now, with your new attitude, You will return and bring the solution of all your difficulties. We send you our blessings. Keep yourself open to the power from above and to our help from here. Remain firm and strong against all difficulties that may yet remain either in the outer life or the sadhana. On these conditions, victory is always sure. When the soul is meant to go forward and there's an external weakness like that, circumstances do come like that to help the external being against itself, which means that there must be a truly sincere aspiration behind. Otherwise, it does not happen, says our Lord, Sri Aurobindo. Prayers and Meditations, November 15, 1914. The one important thing is the goal to be reached. The road matters little, and often it is preferable not to know it beforehand. But what we need to know is whether the time for the divine action upon earth has really come and whether the work conceived in the depths can be realized. Of this, O Lord, Thou hast given us the assurance, an assurance which has been accompanied by the most powerful promise that nature, the universal consciousness, can possibly make. Thus, we have the certitude that what must be done will be done, and that our present individual beings are in reality called upon to collaborate in this glorious victory, this new manifestation. What more do we need to know? Nothing. So it is with the greatest confidence that we can witness the formidable fight, the onslaught of the adverse forces which unknowingly finally serve in the realization of thy plan. We would be wrong to feel anxious because it is not given to us to know how it serves thy plan and by what means thou wilt triumph over all resistances. For thy triumph is so perfect that every obstacle, every ill will, every hatred raised up against thee is a promise of a still vaster and complete victory. From the sum of assurances, one can gauge the scope thou wouldst give to the action of that among thy pure forces which is coming to manifest upon earth. What opposes is just that upon which it is the mission of these forces to act. It is the darkest hatred which must be touched and transformed into luminous peace. If the human individual thou hast chosen as thy center of action and thy intermediary meets with few obstacles, few misunderstandings, and little hatred, it means that thou hast entrusted to him a limited mission without an intensity. It is in the narrow circle of already prepared men of goodwill that he will act and not upon the chaotic and confused mass of terrestrial substance. O Divine Master, this knowledge which Thou hast given me, let all of us share so that the peace of conviction may reign in our hearts and we may, in the calm of Thy sovereign certitude, confront with head held high all that, unconsciously attracted to the transfiguration, plunges headlong into blind ignorance, believing it will be able to destroy the transfiguring love.